Well, I think it's going to be very interesting because the sense I get is that I wouldn't really be surprised if they passed on him. If they, at the very least, really explored, the opportunities to move down and see what opportunities were out there and what other teams were willing to offer. The sense I'm getting is that the Lakers will end up going with Russell or with Okafor at 2, and that Russell will be available to them, and it's still probably a moot point. But it would be interesting. I do think they would entertain trade down offers.
So if Okafor was there at 3, you said you wouldn't be surprised if they passed on him. In that case, if Russell's off the board and they pass on Okafor, then who?
Then I'd probably have to say Kristaps Porzingis. I do think if Russell is ultimately not the guy for whatever reason, I think Porzingis is the second most likely. But like I said, I really think they would explore trading down and seeing what they could get. Maybe moving down to like the 7 range and getting another future pick or not in addition to that. But if it had to be one of those guys, I think it would probably end up being Porzingis.
Derek Bodner is at the NBA draft tonight. The Sports Bash on location here at the High Point. We're giving away Sixers season tickets in just a few. Derek, obviously, a lot of people have all through the process when they got 3, the immediate knee-jerk reaction was Russell. There have been some reports out there that said that if Russell's there, that's the guy. Do you feel that strongly as well, that if Russell's there at 3, that he's the guy?
Yeah, I do think if Russell's there at 3, he's their guy. Barring something completely unexpected like Towns falling, which isn't going to happen. If Russell is there, I think he's a Sixer at the end of the night.
So if that's the case and he's a Sixer at the end of the night, they take D'Angelo Russell at the number 3 spot. After that, do you anticipate then them trying to get back into the first round again, and by doing so, using one of their 3 protected picks next year?
I think there's a very real possibility. I can't say for certain. It might be something a little smaller than that. The reported 35 and 37 for a late first-round pick. It could be something like that. I do think they look to get back into the first round. I'm not sure if it's going to be, substantial enough in the lottery where you would really necessitate moving one of those 3 future first-round picks. Yeah, it's a possibility. If there's somebody that they're targeting and they're falling, then they have a lot of opportunities available to them. They're certainly in a position where they have future assets to go out and do what they want to do.
Derek, at the top of the draft, it's Towns, it looks like, most likely. What is the feeling right now? I know a lot of people, it's mixed, whether or not the Lakers are just kind of – how are you reading the Lakers' view of Russell? Do you think it's just a smokescreen, agents who don't want – because there are some people who think that the agents don't want the Sixers to take their guy. Would Russell be one of those guys that the agent says, I don't want you to take my guy?
Well, I think if anything, what the agent really wants is to go to L.A. or New York where the endorsement deals are going to be greater. I think there's some truth to the rumor about Sam Hinkie and agents who may not enjoy working with him. I think it's probably more second-round guys who would be in a similar situation to KJ McDaniels. And also just, I don't want to say petty stuff, but there's a lot of games that are played between GMs and front office people and agents, basically an exchange of information. And I don't think that's a two-way street with Sam, and I think that bothers some people. I don't think this is a major deal. I think, if you're asking Kristaps Porzingis or D'Angelo Russell personally, I don't think they have any preference of playing for the Sixers or not. I think it's, especially at the top of the draft, I think a lot of it's the opportunity, and it's kind of exacerbated because New York and LA sandwiched Philadelphia in this draft, and there's just so many more opportunities there in terms of marketing. But the smokescreen with Russell, I do think the Lakers is a smokescreen at this point, but I think it's more so that the Lakers can pressure the Kings into making the deal, before the draft, before the day of the draft, because the Kings, it's been reported by Adrian Wojnarowski of Fox Sports that the Kings are targeting Okafor. So if the Lakers are floating out the papers for Russell, it forces the Kings to kind of agree to that deal now so they can get the guy that they want. So I think that's largely what's going on there. I don't think it's so much a smokescreen to get Russell to where his agent wants, but more from the Lakers' perspective.
What's the latest on the talks about Philadelphia using those second-round picks? One team was Portland at 23. Is that something that's still possible?
Yeah, I think that's something that's still in play. I know Keith Pompey of the Inquirer wrote earlier today he was hearing Rashad Vaughn could be a target. So, yeah, I think that's something that's still in play. It's something that Sixers have 5 second-round picks. And if you get to a point where there's just not that many roster spots, and they could consolidate, to move up in the draft and get the guy that they're really targeting.
All right, Derek, obviously there's a lot going on between now and then. The trade stuff is obviously stuff that you almost have to wait till it actually happens because you hear so much about it. But the Lakers with that Cousins stuff, where do you feel that sits right now?
I'm sorry, what was that? You broke out for a second.
The Lakers with the Cousins stuff, do you think that's something that's still in play, or do you think that's pretty much off the table?
I think it's still in play. I think it's kind of a long shot. There seems to be a lot of dysfunction within the Kings organization and the Kings front office. And it would kind of surprise me if something materializes quickly. But I do think it's something that's still in play, and I think it's something that both parties have interest in. I just don't think it gets done tonight.
Derek, the Celtics stuff, that's kind of come out of, lately that says they would put together a monster package. Do they have a monster package? What would constitute a monster package from the Celtics? Because I look at their roster, and to me, there's no monster package they can make with anybody on the roster, and their picks don't seem enticing enough, at least to work out a deal for 3.
Well, the picks that would have to be a part of that are the Brooklyn picks. They're owed a 2016 pick from Brooklyn that I believe is unprotected. And then they're owed a 2017 pick where basically they get the right to swap pick. So if the Brooklyn pick is better than the Celtics pick, then they'll get the Brooklyn pick. So I think those are the two. You look at Brooklyn's roster and its aging roster, and it's capped out. I think there's a pretty quick dive expected. I think that kind of would be the centerpiece of the deal. But I agree. I don't think they have enough to move down. Where the Sixers would be okay moving down from 3 to 16. I don't see it. I think you would have to likely get a third party involved.
Yeah, I would agree, because when I see that and it says they're willing to put together a monster package, if Okafor falls there, they would put that. I still see a match between those two teams. It would have to be, I agree with you, a third team involved. But as you mentioned, if Okafor falls there, you think the Sixers would pass. But would they pass or more likely trade out?
Well, like I said, I do think they would explore trade possibilities. I think they probably wouldn't want to move down to 16, like I said. But if they get a third team involved where, you're talking about the 6 or 7 pick, and then maybe getting that Brooklyn pick in addition, I think they'd entertain that offer. I think there's guys they're targeting, and I think they still want to get that guy. I think 16 is too far, but yeah, I think they could explore a trade down.
Yeah, because I guess if they're talking about a trade down or trade out, that would be a Winslow, a Hazonia, or a Moutier. Those would be guys that they would potentially move back to try to get.
Yeah, those are guys that would still be in that range.
And that, I guess, would that tell Sixer fans, Derek, that the Sixers actually liked those players a little bit more than what was available at 3?
Well, I think there's certainly some interest. How much interest there is. It's hard to say. A lot of it, I think, would depend on what else comes back with it. Like I said, I think that Brooklyn pick could end up being, a top 5, a top 10 pick. So I think there's some value there. But I think there's a lot of guys in the draft that they like. Russell's probably the preference in terms of availability. But I do think there's other guys that would be happy with. Yeah, I think Ian Moutier, Hazonia, and Winslow, I think they're all at least interesting names.
All right, Derek Bodner is live at the NBA Draft. Of course, the draft tonight on 97.3 ESPN. So much, obviously coming in between now and then. What do you make of the stuff with LaMarcus Aldridge now? Has that changed? That we talked about the Portland draft, but there's Portland possibility, that trade. If Aldridge decides and tells him he doesn't want to come back, does that change dealing with Portland?
Yeah, I think if at least in my mind, it would make them less likely to move the pick. You're going through a little bit of a rebuilding situation, rebuilding around Lillard. You would want a pick like that, have in your arsenal and try to develop. To me, I think that would decrease the likelihood. But Portland's in such flux right now that it's hard to really say for sure.
What's going on with the Knicks at 4? Kaminsky's name's out there. I think a lot of Knicks fans are kind of not too happy to hear that. What do you know about what New York could be, what kind of player they could be? Because as you mentioned, agents probably like the fact that they're at 4 and the Lakers are at 2. Then you got Philadelphia stuck in the middle. What do you know about what New York's thinking about?
Yeah, it seems like New York's all over the board. Like you said, Kaminsky's been named. I've heard everything from Justice Winslow to Kristaps Porzingis. I've heard some people tell me that, they like Emmanuel Mudiay, and some people tell me there's no shot that Mudiay goes there. So it's all over the board. It seems like there's a lot of misdirection there. And I'm not sure anyone really knows what Phil Jackson is truly looking for. The three names they've always said that they would really prefer is, Towns, Okafor, and Russell. And if they're not there, I think nobody really knows for certain which direction they're going to go. I think the draft really starts, assuming that trade at number 2 doesn't happen, and assuming that Okafor goes 2. 4 is where the draft really gets interesting.
Derek, I'm interested in your take because obviously you've been around the Sixers all season the last couple of years, through the tanks, through the miserable 37 wins over 2 years. Yet, I'm at a place right now that every seat's taken. There's not a parking spot to be had. People care about the team. They want to see the team do well, but when will the patience run out from not only the fans but also the front office? If this season doesn't go Sam Hinkie's way, what do you think?
Well, I think you're going to have to see how a whole bunch of events shape out. You're going to have to see whether or not Joel Embiid can play at the beginning of the season and remain healthy throughout the season. You're going to have to see who they draft tonight. You're going to have to see whether or not that rookie can make an impact. I think the people who are on board will probably be on board for at least the beginning of the next season. And after that, it's probably dependent on how things really shake out. There's a lot of, what ifs. And if, 1 or 2 of them go the front office's way, then I think you could really build up momentum and interest in the team. But if they all go sour, then I think there is going to be a point where a lot of people they don't support it, and they're going to get angry. And I think you're starting to see some of that as well. All it took was, a couple of rumors of Kristaps Porzingis and a non-report about Joel Embiid's and a lot of people turned. So it's, I think a lot of people are on edge. But I think once you start getting some positive news and some positive outcomes, and some things really break the Sixers' way, I do think they'll get back. I think once, you have a lot of young talent and it's clear that something's being built, I think this town will embrace pretty quickly. Yeah,
Derek, the draft really starts at 2. What will the Lakers do? You can check out every different mock draft. Half of them seem to have Russell. The other half seem to have Okafor. So we'll all be sitting on our seats. And how much the Lakers control a lot of what happens with the Sixers, between this draft, if they end up getting Cousins, and what their record is next year. The Sixers and Lakers are kind of intertwined here for a little while.
Yeah, no doubt. The Lakers are going to have some work to do even if they make that Cousins trade. I think you have to realize Cousins has never won more than 29 games in the NBA, and that's not a slight on Cousins at all. That's how difficult the Western Conference is. And the Lakers, after they make that trade, they'd be pretty barren of talent. You'd be talking about an aging Kobe and whatever they can do in free agency, and they'd have to really hit in free agency to even come close to being relevant in the West. So I think, it's going to impact. I think Cousins would make more of an impact than either Julius Randle or the number 2 pick. There's still a lot of work that they're going to need to do, and I do think that pick is still going to be valuable next year.
And going back to what we were talking about with Sam Hinkie, by the way, I can't imagine if this season doesn't go well, Derek, with 4 potential first-round picks next year, the fact that he got those first-round picks, that they would say, hey, by the way, you only won 22 games this year, you're fired. I certainly don't see that. I'm just trying to get your opinion on it. But, they have the opportunity to have, best-case scenario, 1, 4, 11, and 17 next year. So they're in an unbelievable spot with the picks they have tonight and then next year. So it really looks like this was if you want to say a plan, something in the 5-year range of saying, hey, by the end of that 5 years, we're going to have a boatload of talent.
Yep. Well, he said optionality at the trade deadline presser, and he means it. He needs Noel to work out, Embiid to work out, this year to work out, and then you got the Lakers pick and the 2016 pick, and there's a lot of chances for something to go right.
What interests you the most right now? 5:20 night of the draft. What interests you the most right now?
Well, I think what interests me the most is what happens with the second pick, because like you said, that's going to swing so much into motion that it's really important. So I think that's where the biggest intrigue is right now.
All right, Derek Bodner at Derek Bodner NBA. He's live at the draft tonight. For more, follow him there. And, of course, reaction tomorrow. Who will it be at 2? Who will it be at 3? What happens at 2 really affects 3. So we'll be obviously paying attention to that. Derek, enjoy the draft tonight, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow, man.
Yep, take care.